I tore the microfilm cartridge out so hard the edge of it smacked the reader and left a chalky half moon in the meat of my thumb. Basement air always has a taste. Down there was wet paper, cheap toner, and whatever mold grows on forgotten county history. I'd been inhaling it for hours, hunched over the machine, clicking through obituaries and old city council votes for $9.50 an hour, trying not to think about how this was my fresh start. My supervisor, Darla, kept texting me single words like she was training a dog. Faster. Labels. Don't fuck up dates. The cartridge I ripped out wasn't in my stack. It sat behind the bottom drawer of the microfilm cabinet. In a dead space you only see if you pull the drawer all the way out and get your cheek level with the metal. Plain white box. No library barcode. No typed label. Just masking tape with something scribbled in pencil. 315. Not March 15th. Not 15. Not a year at all. Just 3 numbers like somebody got tired halfway through writing the rest. You ever have those moments where you know what the smart choice is and you watch yourself do the opposite anyway? Like you're sitting behind your own eyes, yelling, and your hands don't give a shit? I should have shoved it back and kept scanning my assigned reels like a good little underpaid ghost. Instead, I slid that cartridge onto the spindle, clicked the glass plate down, and leaned in until my hair almost brushed the screen. The image came up upside down at first. I twisted the knob to flip it, rolled focus, expecting to see the Daily Herald or some dusty wedding announcement. It wasn't newspaper. It was a yearbook page, crooked like someone filmed it off a table. Then another. Then it cut hard to grainy video, the kind of handheld wobble that makes your stomach do that little lurch. A hallway. Lockers. Tile. The hum of fluorescent lights you can almost hear even without sound. No kids. No teachers. The camera drifted forward like the person holding it didn't wanna, like their feet were dragging. At the end of the hall was a door with a crooked sign above it. Cheap red letters on white plastic. Nurse. My mouth went dry so fast my tongue stuck to my teeth. Every school has a nurse's office. Every hallway looks basically the same. That's what I told myself because my brain loves patterns and my life is built on pretending patterns don't mean anything. Then the camera turned left. A classroom door. A paper turkey taped to it. The turkey was missing an eye, ripped out in a jagged bite like somebody got bored and tore it. I remembered making that stupid turkey. Not the idea of it. The exact feel. Construction paper rough under dull safety scissors, my fingers cramped, the glue stick smell, the way my teacher's voice snapped when I laughed and kept tearing it anyway. I remembered the tape pulling hair off my knuckles when I pressed it down. I hadn't been in that school in over a decade. I hadn't even lived in that state since I was a kid. My chest tightened like somebody cinched a belt around my ribs. I spun the knob forward again, trying to stay in control, trying to treat it like footage, like evidence, like anything except what it was. The camera held on a wall clock. 3:15. The second hand didn't tick. It dragged, slow and stubborn, like it was pulling through syrup. I leaned back, breath loud in my own ears. The basement fluorescence buzzed overhead. The pipes clicked. The whole building made its normal old building noises. Still, my pulse was sprinting like I just heard my name called in a room I wasn't supposed to be in. I should have stopped. I didn't. I turned the knob and advanced the film. The hallway cut to a face so close it filled the screen. A girl, maybe 12, hair stuck to her cheeks like she'd been sweating. Eyes too wide, too steady. Smoke smudged across her forehead. She didn't blink. Her mouth hung open just enough to show teeth. I knew her. Not, she looks familiar. I knew the mole near her left nostril. I knew she chewed the ends of her hoodie strings until they were frayed and wet. I knew the grape shampoo smell that clung to her backpack. I knew the way she stole my pudding cup at lunch and then cried when I threatened to tell on her. Mara Henson. My throat did this weird thing, like it tried to close and swallow at the same time. I hadn't said her name in years. I hadn't allowed myself to. The footage jittered like the person filming lost their grip. Mara's face stayed centered anyway, like the film itself wanted her there, wanted me staring. Her lips moved. No sound came from the reader, just the small fan whine and my own breathing, but I understood her anyway, the way you understand someone mouthing words across glass. You ran. My hand slipped on the knob. My fingers were sweating. Okay, I muttered to myself, like talking would make it less real. Okay, whatever this is, it's whatever. I yanked the knob forward again, aggressive, angry, like I could bully the film into behaving. The image jumped to a classroom full of desks. The camera swept across them too fast, blurred, then snapped back hard to one desk in the front row. Someone had carved a name into the wood. Deep gouges, the kind you make with a key when you're pissed and you need the desk to hurt with you. My old name, not the one on my badge that said Evan Cole, not the one I practiced signing when my mom made us start over, the one I had at 12, the one she told me to forget, the one I still sometimes heard in my own head when I was half asleep. Caleb. My knuckles went white around the knob. My wrist cramped. I could have been watching anyone's tragedy. The county has plenty. Fires, crashes, overdoses, missing hikers. But this wasn't a tragedy. This was mine. I told myself it didn't make sense. I told myself film gets mislabeled. I told myself someone could have made a sick prank real. I told myself anything except the obvious. This box had my past inside it like a jar with a spider, and I just unscrewed the lid. I kept turning. The footage went black, then flared white. A door burst open on screen. Smoke poured out thick, rolling, the kind that makes everything look underwater. Someone screamed. Not a movie scream. A real one, high and wet, like their throat was tearing. The camera rushed forward. The hallway lights strobed. Kids slammed into each other. A body hit the floor and didn't get back up. The camera dipped toward it, almost curious. I saw a hand. Small fingers curled, like they tried to grab the tile. And then, this is the part my stomach still flips over when I think about it. The camera stepped over that hand like it was trash. No pause, no holy shit, no reaching down. Just a casual step, like it was a backpack someone dropped. I gagged hard. Acid rose in my throat. My eyes watered. My hand jerked the knob backward to rewind, fast, furious, like I could shove the image back in a box and pretend it didn't exist. The film fought me. The knob stiffened, then the screen flickered, and instead of blank leader between scenes, it showed skin. Close up, pores, a smear like someone had pressed their face to the lens. A wet shine that didn't belong on old film. I let go. The knob kept rewinding by itself. Slow, steady like a hand was turning it after I stopped. I stared at it, frozen. The screen snapped back to the wall clock. 3:15. The second hand dragged, stopped, dragged again. Then the clock face cracked. Not like scratch film, not like dust, like actual glass splitting. A thin line spidered across the image, widening, and behind that crack was something dark, like an eye watching through it. I shoved my chair back so hard it clattered and hit the cabinet. My breath came out in stupid little bursts. Upstairs, footsteps hit the basement stairwell, heavy heels, impatient. Darla's walk. She came down like she owned the air. "What are you doing?" she snapped before she even reached the bottom. "I told you Gazette reels. Not whatever weird shit you dragged out." I didn't answer. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. If I looked away, I was scared it would. I don't know. Change. Come closer. Get into my head. Darla leaned over my shoulder and squinted. Her perfume hit me, sharp floral trying to cover cigarette smoke. "Is that?" Her voice flattened. "Is that Grant Wood?" My neck snapped toward her. "You know it." She rolled her eyes, like I'd asked if the sun rises in the morning. "Everyone knows it. That's the middle school fire. This county jerks off to its tragedies." She jabbed a finger at the screen, almost touching the cracked clock. "Where'd you get this reel?" "Behind the cabinet," I said. My voice sounded thin, like it belonged to somebody else. It wasn't labeled. "No cheat." She straightened, crossed her arms, and the basement light caught the cheap glitter in her nail polish. "Put it back." Heat rose in me. Fast, irrational. Like my body recognized her tone and decided it hated it. "Why the fuck?" I said, and my voice came out sharper than I meant. "It's in the cabinet. It's in the library. Why can't we? Because it's not ours. Darla's eyes narrowed. Because county council said nobody touches the Grantwood stuff unless there's a formal request. Because I don't want my job blown up because you're playing Nancy Drew. It's just film, I said, and even as the words left my mouth, I knew they were bullshit. Darla reached for the glass plate. Turn it off, she said. Now. The screen flickered. The cracked clock vanished. The image jumped to a close-up of a kid's sneaker on tile. The sole was melting, rubber folding like wax. A foot inside it, skin blistered, toes pressing against fabric like worms trying to escape a bag. Darla sucked in a breath. Jesus, the film held on it too long. Long enough it felt cruel, like it wanted us to suffer. Then the camera tilted up. Mara's face filled the frame again, closer this time. Smoke smeared her cheeks. Her eyes stayed dry. Her mouth opened wider than it should, the corners stretching like the film forgot what a human jaw can do. Darla swore and slapped the power switch. The screen went black. The fan died. Sudden silence, except the fluorescent hum and our breathing. Darla stared at the dead screen like she expected it to turn back on and bite her. See, she said finally, voice rough. That's why. That's not public. That's evidence. That's fuck. She reached for the glass plate again, hands shaking now, like her body caught up to what her mouth tried to downplay. I grabbed her wrist. Not gently. I didn't think. I just did it. Her eyes snapped to mine. Pure anger, and under it something like fear disguised as irritation. Let go, she said. No, I heard myself say. Don't. You want to watch more of that? Her voice rose. You want to sit here and, what? Relive dead kids for fun. I couldn't explain. I couldn't tell her about the turkey, the desk, the name. I couldn't tell her my lungs felt like they were remembering smoke. I couldn't tell her the footage didn't feel like recording. It felt like a door cracked open and something looking out. My fingers loosened. Darla yanked free, popped the plate, and lifted the cartridge like it was dirty underwear. She shoved it back into its white box with jerky movements, then held the box out to me. You found it, she said. You put it back. Now. I stared at it. Masking tape. Pencil. 315. I took it. The second my fingers closed around the box, a cold sensation slid across my knuckles. Not air. Like damp film rubbing skin. Like being licked by something that shouldn't have a tongue. The basement light over the cabinets blinked once. Then the library PA upstairs crackled. A kid's voice came through the ceiling speakers. Thin, scratchy, like it hadn't been used in years. Attendance, it said. Darla froze. Her eyes darted toward the stairs. What the hell is that? The speaker popped again. Call roll. Darla's face did this weird combination of pale and pissed off, like fear offended her. This better not be a prank. I moved because standing still felt like losing. I carried the box toward the cabinet, yanked the bottom drawer open, and stared into the gap behind it. Thus sat back there in thick gray sheets, undisturbed, like nobody had opened it in years, like something had been sleeping. My hands didn't feel like mine. They moved too fast, too sure, like they already knew what to do. I shoved the box into the gap. The moment it left my hands, the cold eased. The PA shut up. Silence snapped back into place like a rubber band. Darla let out a breath through her nose and pointed at me like she was trying to reassert control over the universe. You do not touch that again, she said. You hear me? I don't care what you think you saw. I don't care if it's your cousin's cousin. You don't touch it. I nodded because I wanted her gone. I wanted my panic without her attitude layered on top. She stomped up the stairs, muttering curses, and the sound of her heels faded into the main floor. I stood there, staring at the cabinet like it might open by itself, and spit the box back out. My stomach wouldn't unclench. The rest of my shift dragged like a bad dream. I scanned what I was supposed to scan. I labeled what Darla wanted labeled. My hands shook whenever I tried to type. I kept swallowing against a throat that felt too tight. Every time the clock upstairs hit 1/4 my skin prickled. At 4:15, the old fire alarm panel behind the circulation desk beeped once, like it got a whisper of trouble and then decided to shut up. At 5:15, the bathroom hand dryer turned on with nobody inside. And when I checked, the mirror was fogged like someone had just breathed on it. At 6:15, a kid laughed somewhere in the stacks, short, harsh, not happy, and a hardcover book fell off a shelf hard enough to thud like a body. Darla avoided my eyes all evening. When we passed each other, she angled her body away like I was contagious. I tried to convince myself that was a good sign. Like, see, she's spooked too. That means it's not just you being crazy. But every time I thought crazy, my brain threw Mara's face at me again, too close, mouth too wide, eyes dry. I clocked out early without asking. Darla didn't stop me. She didn't even look up. Outside, the air felt too clean. Cold bit my nose. My lungs pulled it in like they were starving. I drove home with the radio off. Every red light felt too long. Every stop sign felt like an accusation. My apartment was a third-floor walk-up that always smelled faintly of fryer oil and someone else's laundry detergent. Normally, it felt like relief. That night, it felt like a flimsy box. Like if something wanted in, a deadbolt wouldn't mean shit. I showered until the water ran cold. I scrubbed my hands raw, like the skin itself held the film's cold in it. When I dried off, I noticed a faint white mark on my thumb where the cartridge hit me earlier, like a bruise without color. Like the skin had been pressed and didn't bounce back. I tried to eat. My mouth wouldn't cooperate. I tried to watch something stupid. The voices on the screen felt too loud, too alive, like they were mocking me. So I went to bed early because sleep is the one thing I'm good at. My whole life, I've used sleep like a trapdoor. At 2:58 a.m., I woke up wide-eyed, heart already running. No nightmare, no sound, just that awful alertness like my body got yanked upright by a hook. I lay there staring at the dark ceiling. Streetlight outside made a pale rectangle on my wall. The radiator clicked. Somewhere in the building, someone coughed. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Not a call, not a text, a calendar alert. I hadn't made any events. I barely remember my own dentist appointments. The alert glowed bright in the dark. 3:15 a.m. Roll call. I stared at it like it was a bug. My skin went cold. No. I whispered because saying it out loud felt like planting my feet. The phone buzzed again like it was impatient. I grabbed it and flung it across the room. It hit the wall with a dull smack and clattered to the floor. I lay there breathing like I'd run. My mouth tasted metallic. At 3:14, my smoke detector chirped once. Not a full alarm, just that single little warning chirp it does when the battery's dying. It wasn't dying. I'd replaced it last month. At 3:15, the temperature in my bedroom dropped like someone opened a freezer door right into my face. Not a little chilly. It dropped fast, brutal. My nipples tightened. Goosebumps rose on my arms. My breath fogged in front of me. I sat up. The air in front of my closet door rippled, subtle, like heat over asphalt. Except it looked wrong because it was cold. Like the space was bending. A smell slid out, slow and thick. Burnt plastic, singed hair, wet smoke that clings to the back of your throat and doesn't let go. My closet door didn't move. The handle turned anyway. I grabbed my bedside lamp and yanked it off the nightstand, cord snapping taut. I held it like a club. My arm shook so hard the light wobbled across the wall and made the room swim. The closet door cracked open. Not wide, just enough to show darkness and a thin strip of something pale behind it. A hand slid into view. Small, child-sized, skin gray like ash worked into it. Fingers bent wrong, stiff like they healed wrong. Nails peeled back like somebody ripped them. The hand gripped the edge of the door and pulled, slow. My brain screamed run, but my body did something else. Rage, maybe. Panic dressed up as anger. I swung the lamp and smashed it against the door. The bulb exploded. Glass sprayed. Light died. The cord jerked in my fist like a snake. The closet door slammed shut like it got yanked from inside. The smoke smell stayed. I backed away on my ass, scooting across the floor, breathing through my mouth because every nose breath tasted like fire. My phone buzzed again from the floor. This time it played sound, not a ringtone, A school bell, slow and heavy, like it was coming from down a long hallway. Then a voice, thin, scratchy, the same one from the library PA, came through the cracked phone speaker, calm like a teacher. Present. I didn't answer. My throat locked. My tongue felt thick. The bell rang again. Present. My hand was shaking so bad I could hear my nails clicking against the floor. The bell rang again, closer somehow. Present. Fuck you. I rasped and my voice sounded tiny. The phone buzzed harder, like it was furious. The bell kept going, relentless, slow. Present? Present? Present. I grabbed the phone and my thumb slid across broken glass. Pain flared. Blood slicked my skin. I didn't care. I jammed the power button. The screen went black. The bell kept ringing. Not from the phone now. From somewhere in the room. In the walls. In my teeth. I stumbled into the kitchen, grabbed duct tape out of the junk drawer, and wrapped the phone like I was mummifying it. Layers and layers until my fingers cramped. The bell rang under the tape. Muffled but steady. Present, the voice asked, patient like it could do this forever. I shoved the taped phone into a soup pot, slammed the lid on, and jammed it into the freezer. Then I sat on the kitchen floor with my back against the cabinets, blood drying on my thumb, and tried to breathe without vomiting. The smoke smell seeped into the kitchen anyway, curling through the air like it didn't care about doors. That's when a memory hit me. Not full, not like a movie, but like a shard under the skin you've been ignoring. That day at Grantwood, the hallway, the alarm, people running, me clutching my backpack strap so hard my fingers went numb, and the part one always shoved away, the part my mom's new name didn't erase. Mara grabbing my sleeve, her nails digging in. Caleb, she'd said, voice cracking, eyes huge. Don't leave me. And me ripping my arm free because I saw smoke rolling out of the nurse's office and I wanted air, and I wanted my mom, and I wanted out, and I wanted anything except standing still. You ran. I pressed my forehead to my knees. My stomach churned. I'd spent years telling myself I was a kid. Kids panic. Kids survive. Kids don't owe anyone hero shit. But guilt doesn't care about logic. Guilt sits on your chest and waits. The bell rang again, slow and heavy. Present. My freezer hummed louder, like it was trying to drown it out. I didn't sleep. Not really. I dozed in 10-minute bursts and snapped awake every time I drifted too far, like my body was scared of what would find me in deeper sleep. At 6:30, gray light filled the windows. The bell stopped. The smoke smell faded like it got bored. I stood up, stiff, and opened the freezer. The soup pot lid was frosted over from inside. I lifted it. The phone was gone. Just duct tape scraps, loose and torn like something had wriggled out. My throat did that closing thing again. No, I said louder. No, that's not. My calendar app dinged. New event. No input. 3:15 a.m. Roll call. My hands curled into fists. My thumb throbbed where the glass cut it. The pale bruise on my other thumb looked darker now, like it had sunk deeper. A move let my body made the decision before my brain could talk it out. If it wanted me for roll call, if it wanted me present, then sitting in my apartment waiting to get pulled into my closet was the stupidest option. I threw on jeans and a hoodie. I grabbed my keys so hard the metal cut into my palm. I didn't eat. I didn't brush my teeth. I just left. The streets were empty in that pre-morning way, like the city was holding its breath. Red lights stayed red too long. My headlights carved through fog that wasn't really fog, just cold air over warm pavement, but it looked like smoke anyway, and my shoulders kept creeping up. I parked behind the library and walked to the staff door. I swiped my badge. Beep. Green light. The lock didn't click. I swiped again. Harder, like anger would help. Beep. Green light. Nothing. I grabbed the handle and yanked. Locked. I stared at it, confused and furious, then looked through the narrow window. The lobby lights were on. The front doors, clear glass, were unlocked, and the open sign glowed bright red, even though the library didn't open for another 3 hours. My mouth tasted like pennies. I walked around front with my shoulders tight and my jaw clenched and pushed the front door. It swung open easy. Inside, the air smelled like the basement. Vet cardboard and smoke. The fluorescent lights hummed like insects. The building felt awake. Not in the normal, a building has lights way. In the way a room feels when you walk in on someone talking and they stop. I crossed the lobby fast, shoes squeaking faintly on the tile, and headed straight for the basement stairs. I didn't turn on any extra lights. I didn't need to. The basement fluorescents were already buzzing. All of them. Like somebody flipped the switches for me. I went down, one hand on the railing, the metal cold and slightly damp under my palm. The microfilm room came into view. The reader sat there with a glass plate open, and on the table in front of it, dead center like an offering, was a plain white box. Masking tape. Pencil. 315. I hadn't touched it since Darla shoved it back behind the cabinet. My legs wanted to stop. My spine wanted to turn around. My breath came shallow. But I kept walking because at that point, what was the alternative? Wait for the closet again. I stepped up to the table. The box looked a little wrong. Not different enough that I could point to it. Just wrong the way food looks wrong when it's been left out too long. I put my fingers on the lid. It felt cold. Too cold. Like it had been sitting in a freezer. The basement lights buzzed louder for a second, like they were leaning in. I lifted the lid. The cartridge inside was damp. The film edge, visible through the small gap, looked stuck like it had been breathed on. My throat tightened. Behind me, somewhere upstairs in the empty building, the PA speaker crackled once, and that thin kid voice whispered, so soft it felt like it came from inside my ear instead of the ceiling. Attendance. The word didn't echo through the speaker this time. It came from the reader itself, low and papery, like the machine had a throat full of dust and decided to use it. I stood there with my hand on the lid of the box, frozen in that stupid half motion, like if I didn't complete the action, whatever was happening couldn't officially start. The basement smelled off. Not just the usual wet cardboard funk. There was something sweet under it, like melted plastic, like hot glue, like the inside of an old TV when it burns. I forced my fingers to lift the lid all the way. The cartridge looked swollen. The film inside pressed against the plastic window like it wanted out. Condensation beaded on it, tiny droplets that didn't make sense in a room this cold. I didn't want to touch it. My skin knew that before my brain did. My thumb bruise pulsed. I could have walked away. I could have taken the stairs two at a time and run out the front doors and never come back and dealt with the why were you in the building before open later. But the building felt like it had already wrapped its hand around my ankle. Even standing still, I felt tugged. The reader screen was on even though I hadn't hit the power. A pale glow bled across the table, patient as moonlight. My fingers moved anyway. I pulled the cartridge out like I was lifting something dead and heavy. The plastic was slick with cold, damp enough that my grip squeaked. I slid it onto the spindle. The film caught with a soft, wet click that made my stomach twist. That sound was wrong. Film doesn't sound wet. I lowered the glass plate. The screen didn't flicker into inverted frames the way it had the night before. No leader. No nonsense. It was already there. Hallway. Lockers. Tile. Nurse sign at the end, crooked in the same way my memory kept trying to straighten. And the clock. 3:15. The second hand dragged. I couldn't breathe for a second. My lungs just stalled, like they didn't want to inhale whatever air came with that image. I grabbed the knob like it was a steering wheel. If I could control it, maybe I could keep it from turning into something else. The camera on the film shifted like whoever held it turned their head. And there I was, 12 years old, skinny, soot on my cheek, hair plastered down with sweat. My backpack half open, one strap hanging. I was standing by the lockers with my shoulder pressed to them, like I was trying to become part of the metal. Kid me looked up toward the camera with this expression I can't explain without sounding insane. Not fear, not confusion, expectation, like he'd been waiting for me to show up. His mouth moved, and I didn't sense the meaning. I didn't have to guess. The words showed, crisp as typed captions, even though the footage was grainy and old. Say you're here. My throat clenched so hard it hurt. My hands started to shake. Not just tremble, full body shake, like my bones were trying to jump out of my skin. No, you whispered. The word fogged in front of my face. Kidme's eyes tracked, not the camera me. The person watching. Like the film wasn't a recording at all. Like it was a window and the kid on the other side could see the room I stood in. He raised something. A sheet of paper, edges curled and stained dark. A class roster. Names in neat print, lined up in rows. Most of them had thick black marks through them. Not one line. Multiple. Violent strokes. Like someone crossed them out hard enough to tear the paper. My stomach dropped when I saw the pattern. This wasn't a normal roll sheet. It was a list of who got erased. Only 2 names at the bottom sat untouched. Mara Henson and Caleb Harper, my old last name, my old life, my old everything, written like it was carved. The reader made a small sound like a throat clearing. "Call roll," the kid voice said. I yanked my gaze away and looked around the basement like I expected to see someone standing there with a speaker. Nothing. Just shelves, cabinets, old equipment. Fluorescence buzzing overhead. But the air felt full. Packed. Like the room was crowded with people you couldn't see. Like if you stepped wrong, you'd bump into a shoulder. I stumbled backward, hit the light switch by the stairs, and flipped it down. The basement lights snapped off. Dark swallowed the shelves. The reader screen stayed on. The glow didn't dim. If anything, it got brighter, like it was happy I killed the distraction. The hallway on the screen sharpened. The clock swelled, like the camera drifted closer on its own. 3:15. The second hand stopped dragging and just stopped. The silence in the basement thickened until I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Then the clock face on the screen bulged outward, like something pressed from behind the glass. Not a trick of film warping, not a visual artifact. A push, a pressure. The crack line that had formed the night before spread again, spidering across the face. And behind it, a dark shape shifted. I backed up until my shoulders hit the metal cabinet. "No," I said again, louder now, like the building needed to hear it. "Fuck no." The reader's fan kicked on by itself. A low whir. The kind of sound you, forget machines, make until they make it when they shouldn't. "Present," the voice asked, patient. It didn't sound angry. That made it worse. It sounded like a teacher who knows you'll answer eventually, because you always do. I lunged forward, flipped the reader's power switch. Nothing happened. The screen didn't even blink. I yanked the plug cord out of the wall. The screen stayed lit. The hallway stayed there. The voice, calm as ever, present. I stood there holding the plug in my hand like an idiot. The cord dangled. The outlet was empty. My mouth went dry. The reader hummed anyway. The clock on the screen bulged harder, as if whatever was behind it felt encouraged. I did the only thing my brain could latch onto. I went for the film. I popped the glass plate up, grabbed the edge, and pulled. The film didn't slide like film. It resisted like muscle. It made a soft tearing sound that wasn't plastic ripping. It was like fabric tearing when it's soaked. Cold bit across my fingers. Not freezing, not numb, burning cold. Like dry ice pressed to skin. I pulled harder. The film snapped free in a long, tangled strip. It lashed across my wrist and left a pale mark that felt like a welt. It was heavier than it should have been. It dragged in my hand like a ribbon dipped in water. The reader screen went black for half a second. Then it flared white, and the bell rang. Not an electronic ding. Not a library chime. A school bell. Slow. Heavy. The kind that makes your stomach drop, because it means time's up. The sound didn't come from upstairs speakers. It came from everywhere. In the air. In the shelves. In my teeth. I ran. I bolted up the basement stairs with the film trailing behind me like a black tongue. The lobby lights were still on. The open sign glowed. The front doors stood ajar like they were inviting people in. I sprinted past the circulation desk and slammed into the book drop slot, trying to shove the film through like it was a return. Stupid impulse. Like the building had a place you could put it away and it would behave. The slot swallowed a foot of film, then jammed. The film folded and stuck. It made that wet sound again. Behind me, the bell rang again, and I felt, not heard, footsteps. Small feet pounding tile. Kids running. The kind of running you do when you're not playing. "Present," the voice asked, close enough that my scalp tingled. I spun around. The lobby was empty, but the air near the stairwell shifted. Not rippled like my closet, just thickened like heat in a doorway, except cold. I yanked the film out of the book drop with both hands. It resisted, then came free in a jerking pull that nearly made me fall backward. My wrist burned where the film had slapped it. I didn't think. I went to the staff kitchen because it was the only room with metal and water and something that felt like control. The staff kitchen smelled like stale coffee and sanitizer. Fluorescent light too bright. Everything too normal, which made it feel fake. I dumped the trash can out. Coffee grounds, old donut boxes, crumpled napkins. I stuffed the film inside like it was a snake I needed contained. My hand was shaking so bad, I fumbled for the hand sanitizer bottle. I dumped half of it onto the film. Clear gel dripped down like spit. I grabbed a stack of paper towels, stuffed them in. More, until the trash can was packed. My brain screamed, "This is stupid. You're in a library. You're about to light a fire." But another part of me, a 12-year-old part, was screaming louder, "Do something. Do anything. Don't let it touch you." I ripped open the emergency kit Darla kept on top of the fridge. Matches. They were for fire drills or whatever. Irony, so thick it made me want to laugh and puke. I struck one. The match head flared bright. The bell rang again, distant now, like it was moving through hallways. "Attendance," the voice said, soft, not threatening, almost gentle. I dropped the match into the trash. The paper towels caught. The sanitizer flared. Heat punched up fast enough to make me step back. The film didn't melt. It reacted. It writhed. It shrank and curled like something alive in pain. It made a sound, high, thin, a squeal like an animal choking. It wasn't loud in the room, but it filled my head like it was happening inside my skull. The kitchen filled with smoke. Not normal smoke. Not just burning paper. It smelled like the nurse's office. Like melted plastic and disinfectant and hair. And in it I heard kids running. Footsteps. Screams. A desk scraping tile. The hollow thump of something hitting the floor. Not from the lobby. Not from upstairs. From inside me. My memory wasn't playing like a movie. It was leaking. Seeping through the cracks I'd plastered over with years of pretending. I coughed and kept feeding the fire. Paper towels. Cardboard. Anything. My eyes burned. Tears poured. The voice stopped being calm. Present. It screamed, sudden and furious, like a teacher who finally lost patience and snapped. The bell rang again. Again. The smoke thickened until I couldn't see the far wall of the kitchen. I could only see orange flame and black film curling and fighting it. My wrist welt pulsed. My thumb bruise throbbed. I grabbed the fire extinguisher off the wall, red canister, cold metal handle, and blasted foam into the trash. White powder exploded out, burying flame. The squeal choked off. For 1 second, the kitchen was silent except for my coughing. Then the building made a sound. A soft click, like a lock turning. Every light in the library flickered once, then went steady. The front doors, somewhere out in the lobby, unlocked with a thunk. I fell through the floor. I stood there, breathing hard, covered in extinguisher powder and sweat, staring at the trash can like it might jump. I wanted to believe it was done. I wanted that so badly my teeth hurt. But the smoke smell didn't fully fade. And the bell didn't stop. It just moved farther away, muffled like it had gone into another room and kept ringing there. I left the kitchen. The lobby looked the same. Circulation desk, brochures, the big county seal on the wall. But the air felt wrong, like the building had shifted a few degrees out of reality. And there, near the circulation desk, stood a kid. Not Mara, not me. A boy I didn't recognize, maybe 10 or 11, soaked in soot. His skin bubbled in spots like wax that cooled wrong. His lips were cracked. He held a roster sheet in both hands like a holy book. He didn't blink. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He looked down at the paper, then up at me. Then he raised one finger and drew it across his throat, slow. My stomach clenched so hard I thought I'd shit myself. Then he pointed at the basement stairs. Not like go down. Like, next time, you go down and you don't come back up. I took a step toward him without meaning to. My mouth opened to say something, anything. He vanished. Not walked away. Not dissolved. Just gone, like the lobby air swallowed him. The bell rang once more, faint as a memory. Silence dropped so hard it felt like pressure in my ears. I stood there for a long second, then my body decided for me again. I ran out the front doors. Cold morning air slapped me. I sucked it in like it was oxygen after drowning. I didn't look back. I got in my car and drove until the library was a dot in my rear view. My hands were slick on the steering wheel. My fingers cramped from gripping too hard. At the first stoplight, I noticed my wrist. The pale welt where the film hit me wasn't just red. It looked printed, like faint black numbers under my skin. 315. Y swallowed bile. No, y whisperat. No, no, no. It didn't fade. It didn't wash off when I rubbed it with my thumb. It just sat there like a tattoo made of frost. I drove home on autopilot. I parked crooked. I climbed my stairs like my legs were wood. Inside my apartment, the air smelled normal. Fryer oil and detergent. It should have been relief. It wasn't, because the second I closed my door, I heard something in my closet. A soft scrape, like nails on wood. I froze with my hands still on the deadbolt. The scrape stopped. Silence. My heart pounded so hard my vision pulsed. I didn't open the closet. I didn't go near it. I didn't even look directly at it like it was a wild animal. I grabbed my keys and left again, doors slamming behind me. I sat in my car in the parking lot with the engine off, staring at my wrist and trying not to shake apart. What do you do when something follows you and the only person you can tell is yourself? Call the cops? Hey, officer, a microfilm reel from a library basement is haunting me and my closet smells like a school fire. Go to the hospital? Hi, my wrist says 315 because a piece of film burned me with a number. So I did what I always do when I'm cornered. I call my mom. She answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. Hello. Hearing her voice hit me like a punch. Not comfort, not warmth, just this old, complicated dread. Mom, I said, and my voice cracked so hard I hated myself for it. A pause. Evan, what time is it? It doesn't matter, I said. I need to ask you something. She sighed like I was about to tell her my rent was late. Okay. Grantwood, I said. Silence. Not the kind where someone didn't hear you. The kind where someone did and the word dropped like a rock into water. Where did you hear that? She asked finally, voice sharp now awake. My jaw clenched. Answer me. You don't need to be digging, she started. Mom, I hated how small I sounded. Grantwood, the fire. You told me not to talk about it. You told me we were starting over. You made me change my name. What? Her breathing came through the phone, slow, controlled. Because you were a child, she said. Because we needed to leave. Because you were having episodes. Episodes. I barked a laugh that came out ugly. Is that what you called it? I watched kids burn, and I was having episodes. Caleb, she said, then stopped. Hearing my old name out of her mouth made my stomach drop. She hadn't said it in years. Not once. Like it was poison. Don't, I said. She swallowed. I heard it. Listen to me. You don't go back there. You don't go near that school or anything connected to it. Do you understand me? I found film, I said. Microfilm. And my job. It's its footage. A sound from her. A quiet inhale that turned into a rough exhale. Like she'd been holding her breath for years, and I just forced it out. They kept it, she whispered. What? They kept everything, she said, voice low now, like someone might overhear her through the phone. They said it was for investigation, for records, for liability. They took photos. They took tapes. She stopped, and when she spoke again, her voice was thick. They shouldn't have kept it. My skin prickled. Why? What does that mean? She didn't answer right away. I heard her shifting in bed, maybe sitting up, maybe staring at a wall. You remember Mara? She said. I closed my eyes. Yes. You told me, she said, that she grabbed you. My grip tightened on the phone. Yeah. And you told me, she continued, voice shaking now, that you pulled away. My throat went tight. I was a kid. I know, she said sharp. I know. But you told me you heard the bell after. You told me you heard it even outside. You told me you heard it in the car. You told me. She inhaled, and I could hear the effort it took not to cry. You told me you kept waking up at 3:15. Cold crept to my spine. Mom, I said, barely a sound. I got an alert on my phone. Roll call. Silence again. Then quietly, oh, Caleb. The way she said it wasn't anger. It wasn't blame. It was grief. Like she'd known this could happen and she'd spent years pretending it wouldn't. You never told anyone else? I asked. No, she whispered. I didn't want anyone to latch onto it. I didn't want you to become a story people told. I didn't want them to. Her voice broke. They're like tragedies. They're like touching them. They're like making them into something they can look at without feeling it. I stare at my wrist. 315 stare back. Why 315? I asked. She swallowed again. Because that's when they did roll call. My skin went ice cold. What? They had to, she said. After. In the shelter. They did it over and over. Names. Answers. Names. Answers. It was the only way to know who was missing. Do you understand? They kept calling. Even when the answers stopped. The image of the roster sheet flashed in my mind. All those names crossed out. Only 2 left. I couldn't breathe right. And they kept the footage, she said, voice bitter now. They kept the records, the reels, the tapes. They locked them away like that made it safer. My mouth tasted like smoke. What do? I asked, and I hated myself for asking. Hated needing her. Hated that I was 30 years old and still that kid who wanted his mom to fix it. She exhaled, shaky. You don't answer. What if my voice cracked? What if it doesn't stop? You don't answer, she repeated firmer. You don't say you're here. You don't let it put you back on the list. My eyes stung. It's already got my name. No, she said. Names can be changed. You know that. The line went quiet for a second. Then she added, softer, but guilt doesn't change. Guilt is what it uses. I sat there in my car, phone pressed to my ear, and felt something in me slide into place in the worst way. It wasn't after me because I'd watched the film. It was after me because I'd run, because I'd lived, because I'd been the one who answered here every day before that fire. And then I stopped. I hung up without saying goodbye, not because I was mad at her, because my throat was too tight to make words. I drove, not home, not to the library, just drove, aimless, until the sun came up fully and made the world look normal again like a cruel joke. By noon, my phone, my replacement phone, the one I bought after the freezer thing, started acting weird. Not supernatural weird, subtle. The clock on it would flicker from 12:13 to 3:15 for a blink, then correct itself. My calendar app kept generating events I didn't create. Roll call, attendance, here. It would delete them if I swiped, but they'd come back. Sometimes with old dates, sometimes with future dates. At 3:14 p.m., my office desk at work, at the library, suddenly felt like it was tilting. I was sitting at the circulation computer, pretending I could just do my job and ignore the bruise on my wrist and the phantom bell in my ears. Darla was at the reference desk, sorting returns with an angry slap like the books offended her. I watched the clock on the wall. 3:14. My skin prickled. The air felt colder. Darla looked up suddenly. What are you staring at? Nothing, I said too fast. She narrowed her eyes. You look like shit. Thanks. She tossed a book into the cart hard enough it thudded. You coming early this morning? My stomach dropped. What? I said. She pointed at the security log on the counter. Door alarm went off before open. Front doors were unlocked when I got here. I had to reset the system. My mouth went dry. What time? I asked. Darla glanced at her phone, then looked at me like she was trying to decide if I was lying. Around 6, I swallowed. I couldn't sleep. I thought I left something. Her eyes sharpened. You left something? Like what? I forced a laugh. It sounded fake even to me. Like my dignity. Darla didn't smile. Don't fuck with me. There was smoke in the staff kitchen. Fire extinguisher powder everywhere. You want to explain that? My pulse hammered. My brain scrambled for a lie. I dropped something on the stove? The coffee maker? I don't know. There's no stove, she snapped. Istir de here. Exactly, she said, voice rising. So how the hell did you almost set my break room on fire? My hands shook under the counter. I clenched them so hard my nails bit my palms. It was an accident, I said. Bullshit, Darla said. You were down there with that reel again, weren't you? I didn't answer. Her jaw clenched. You're gonna get me fired. You're gonna get this place shut down. The wall clock clicked. 3:15. The second hand dragged, and the library PA crackled. Every hair on my arms lifted. A kid's voice came through the speakers, thin and scratchy, but this time it wasn't from the basement. It was everywhere. Attendance. Darla froze mid-rant. Her face went pale. Call roll. The patrons in the reading area looked up, confused. One guy laughed like it was some weird announcement. What the fuck? Darla whispered. I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. The bell rang in my head, slow and heavy. Present, the voice asked. A patron at the public computer bank called out, joking, present, like it was cute. My blood turned to ice. The fluorescent lights flickered. The air shifted. For half a second, the library didn't smell like books. It smelled like smoke. A woman near the new releases coughed, then frowned like she'd tasted something bitter. Do you smell that? The patron who joked present laughed again. Is this like a... He stopped mid-sentence. His eyes went unfocused. His mouth opened, and in that thin, scratchy voice, like it was coming through him, he said, here. Everyone laughed awkwardly for a beat. Then he started to cry, not like sad sniffles, like his body was leaking panic. Big silent tears that poured down his face while he stared at nothing. Darla's hand grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. What did you do? She hissed. I didn't, my voice broke. I didn't answer. The crying patron jerked like something yanked his spine. Then he turned his head slow toward me. His eyes were flat and wide. Mara's eyes. My stomach dropped so hard it felt like falling. His lips moved without sound at first. Then, in my head, clear as if she stood beside me, you left. I ripped my arm free from Darla and stumbled backward, knocking into the returns cart. Books tumbled. Nobody cared. Everyone was staring at the crying man. Darla swore. Stop it! She snapped at the PA like yelling at a speaker could intimidate whatever was behind it. Stop! This isn't funny. The voice didn't care. Present, it asked again, patient. The wall clock on the library wall, normal, modern, plastic, made a small cracking sound. A thin line appeared across the face. Darla saw it. Her mouth opened. Fear finally punched through her anger. What the fuck is happening? She whispered. I didn't answer, because the crack in the clock face darkened, and behind it, something shifted like an eye turning. The bell rang again, and this time it wasn't in my head. It was in the building. A slow, heavy ding that made every conversation die. Patrons looked around, confused. Someone laughed nervously again, then shut up when nobody joined. Darla grabbed the phone on the counter and punched numbers. I'm calling. Her phone screen went black, then lit up with a calendar alert. 3:15, roll call. She stared at it like it was a dead bug on her palm. You, she said, voice shaking with fury. You brought it here. You brought it back. My throat tightened. It was already here. Bullshit, she snapped. That reel was locked away. The county told me. Then why was it in the cabinet? I shot back, my own anger flaring because fear had nowhere else to go. Why was it behind our drawers like a fucking booby trap? Why did you know about it? Why did you tell me not to touch it like you've done it before? Darla's face went hard. For a second, the mask slipped. I was told, she said. I was told to keep it where it could be managed. Managed. I repeated, and the word tasted rotten. The PA hissed static, then the voice said, "Softer, call roll." The crying patron stopped crying abruptly, like his tears got shut off. He smiled. It was wrong on his face. Too wide. Too empty. Then he spoke again in that thin voice. "Caleb." The library went dead quiet. Darla's head snapped toward me. What did he just say? My stomach turned to acid. The patron's eyes stayed on me, on my face, like he recognized me. The voice through him asked, gentle, present. Every muscle in my body locked. I could feel it waiting. Not for hear from him, for hear from me, because that's how roll call works. It doesn't matter who says your name. It matters who answers. Darla grabbed my arm again. This time it wasn't anger. It was fear trying to drag someone else into it. "Say something," she whispered. "Just say you're fine. Say." "No." Isha. Her grip tightened. "Why are you being like this? Why are you?" "Because if I answer," I said through clenched teeth, "it doesn't stop." The patron's smile twitched, like it didn't like hearing that. His head tilted. His jaw cracked subtle. Then his mouth opened wider than it should, corners stretching like film forgetting anatomy. And the smell of smoke poured out of him. People backed away, coughing. Someone screamed. Darla let go of me, covering her mouth. "Oh my God!" The patron stepped forward, slow, like a puppet being pulled. "Present," he said again, voice layered now, like two voices talking at once. His. Hers. I stumbled back, my heel catching on a chair, nearly falling. The wall clock cracked louder. The eye behind the crack widened. The library air got colder. And in the corner of my vision, by the children's section, I saw movement. Small shapes. Shadows. Like kids crouched between shelves. I didn't wait. I didn't think. I ran. Not out the front doors. Not into daylight. Toward the basement. Because the horrible, stupid truth is when you're being chased by something you can't understand, sometimes you run toward the source because it feels like control. I barreled down the stairs. The basement lights buzzed on by themselves as I hit the last step. The microfilm room door was open. The reader sat there, screen glowing. The 315 box sat on the table again. Like my morning fire did nothing. Like the film was never in that trash can. My lungs seized. Footsteps pounded behind me on the stairs. Adult footsteps, heavy. "Darla." "Stop," she yelled, voice ragged. "Stop, what are you doing?" I didn't stop. I slammed in the microfilm room, grabbed the box, ripped it open. The cartridge sat inside, pristine, dry, like it had never been damp, like it hadn't been in my hands at 6 a.m., slick and cold. My wrist burned where 315 sat under my skin, like it was laughing. Darla shoved into the doorway behind me, breathless, eyes wild. "You're insane," she spat. "You're fucking insane." "Then get out," I snapped. She stepped forward anyway, gaze darting to the reader screen. Her face drained as she saw the hallway. The clock, 3:15, the bulging glass. "Oh," she whispered, and her anger finally died, leaving just fear. The reader's voice spoke, calm again like it reset itself. "Attendance." Darla backed up a step. "No," she said, breath shaking. No. Call roll." The basement lights flickered. The shelves seemed to stretch, just a little, like the room was pulling longer. The air thickened with that packed feeling again, like invisible bodies crowding close. I could hear kids breathing, little sniffles, the sound of someone trying not to cry. Darla's eyes darted around, seeing nothing but reacting like she did. "What is this?" she whispered. "It's them," I said, voice hoarse. "It's the list." "It's present," the voice asked. On the reader screen, Kidme raised the roster sheet again. The crossed-out names looked darker now, like fresh ink. Mara Henson and Caleb Harper glowed faintly. Not literal glow, just pulled attention like magnets. Darla's eyes locked on the names. "That's you," she whispered. "That's your old name," I said. She stared at me like she'd never seen me before. "Why didn't you tell me?" I laughed, sharp and bitter. "Because telling people always fixes things, right?" The reader's fan whined higher. The clock on the screen bulged, so far the crack line widened. Something pressed through like a fingertip. Then another. The glass didn't shatter. It flexed. A pale shape appeared behind the crack. A hand, child-sized, fingers bent wrong. Darla made a noise like she was going to vomit. Oh God, the hand pushed. The crack spread. And then the impossible thing happened. The basement air in front of the reader rippled like my closet door had, and a line appeared, thin and vertical, like a seam in reality. It wasn't light. It wasn't shadow. It looked like the edge of a door. And from that seam, smoke seeped. Not fast, not dramatic, slow like breath. The bell rang. The seam widened. Darla grabbed my sleeve, nails digging. "We need to leave," she hissed. "Yeah," I said, voice tight. "We do." But my eyes were locked on the seam, because something moved behind it. A shape in the smoke. A head, hair plastered, eyes too wide. Mara, not the face on film, not a grainy image. A presence pressed right up against that seam like she was on the other side of a thin membrane. Her mouth moved. No sound, but I understood anyway. "You ran." The guilt hit like a physical shove, like someone slammed a hand into my chest. I staggered. My vision blurred. Darla shook my sleeve. "Caleb." Hearing my old name from her mouth made my stomach flip. "Don't call me that." "That's what it wants," she snapped, voice breaking. "It's calling you. It's Jesus, it's..." The seam widened another inch. A hand slid through. Not fully, just fingers, then knuckles. The skin looked gray with ash, nails peeled back. It reached slow. Darla screamed. Her scream was loud enough to make the fluorescence flicker. The hand twitched like it liked that. I grabbed the fire extinguisher from the wall. There was one down there too, because of course there was, and blasted foam directly at the seam. White powder filled the air, coughing cloud. The hand jerked back. The seam shivered like a curtain in wind. The reader voice snapped, furious now. Present. Darla coughed, eyes watering. "That doesn't work," she wheezed. "It did before." I snapped, then realized how insane that sounded and didn't care. I grabbed the cartridge and yanked it off the spindle. The film edge whipped out like it had tension, snapping against my fingers. Coal burnt. I didn't gently remove it. I ripped it. The film tore with that wet sound again like skin. Darla's eyes widened. "Stop. You're gonna..." "I'm gonna what?" I yelled. "Break it? Good. I want it broken." The seam pulsed, like it reacted to the tearing. The bell rang again, louder. The basement lights dimmed, then surged. The shelves around us, just for a blink, looked like lockers. Long metal doors. Nosleep. Then it snapped back to shelves. Darla grabbed my arm hard. "We need to get help," she said, voice shaking. "We need to call someone county." "They won't help." I barked. "They kept it, Darla. They fucking kept it." Her face twisted. "You don't know that." I held up my wrist. The number sat there, faint but clear. Her eyes flicked to it. She went pale. "Oh," she whispered again, like her brain couldn't find any other word. The seam widened suddenly, like it took advantage of our pause. A shoulder pressed through. A head. Mara's face. Real now, not grainy. Pushed against the air like she was forcing herself out of water. Her eyes were dry. Her mouth opened too wide. Smoke poured out. Darla made a strangled sound. I did the only thing left in my idiot brain. I answered with action. I grabbed the dangling strip of film and sprinted out of the microfilm room, dragging it behind me, up the stairs toward the lobby. Darla yelled something behind me. I didn't stop. The library upstairs was chaos now. Patrons coughing, shouting. Someone had pulled out their phone and was filming. Of course they were. Someone always films. The crying patron from earlier stood near the front desk, head tilted, smiling that too wide smile, like he was waiting to see what I'd do. As I ran past, his eyes locked on mine. "Present," he whispered, soft and intimate like a secret. I ignored him and barreled into the staff kitchen again. The trash can still sat there, full of extinguisher powder from this morning, like evidence of my stupid attempt. I dumped it out, grabbed the film, stuffed it in again. hands moving so fast they didn't feel connected to thought. This time I didn't bother with sanitizer. I grabbed a bottle of 190 proof ethanol from the locked cabinet under the sink, used for cleaning equipment because libraries love solvents. Darla kept the key on a magnet. I snatched it without thinking. I splashed ethanol into the trash. The smell hit my nose hard, sharp. Darla burst into the kitchen doorway, coughing, eyes red. "What are you doing?" "Finishing it," I snapped. "You can't burn," she started. "Watch me." I struck a match. The match flared. In the lobby, the bell rang. The patron screamed. The match shook in my fingers. Tiny flame reflected in Darla's wide eyes. I dropped it. The ethanol ignited like a slap. Fire roared up, sudden and violent, bright enough it hurt to look. The film didn't melt. It fought. It snapped and curled and writhed like something in pain. It screamed again, that high, thin squeal that made my teeth ache. Darla stumbled back, coughing. "Stop! You're gonna kill us." "Better than." I started, then choked on smoke. The kitchen filled fast. Real smoke now. Burning paper, burning ethanol, and under it, that wet smoke smell that belonged to the school. For a second, I wasn't in the library. I was back at 12, hallway full of bodies, kids shoving, heat rolling, Mara's nails in my sleeve, the bell, the voice calling names. My ears rang. The screaming from the film layered over screaming from my memory until I couldn't tell which was which. The voice, no longer calm, howled through the building, through the walls, through my skull. Present, present, present. The lights flickered. The kitchen walls shuddered. Somewhere deep in the building, metal clanged like locker doors slamming. Darla grabbed the extinguisher and sprayed foam into the trash, choking the flame. The screaming cut off like someone yanked a cord. Silence dropped. For a second, it felt like we'd done it, like we'd cut the throat of the thing. I stood there wheezing, eyes streaming, hands shaking. Darla stared at me like she wanted to slap me and hug me at the same time. "You're out of your mind," she whispered. I wiped my face with my sleeve, smearing soot and foam. Yeah, we stood there, breathing in the white extinguisher dust, listening. No bell, no voice, no footsteps, just the building hum. Darla's shoulders sagged a fraction. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, maybe." The library's front doors unlocked with a heavy thunk. Darla flinched. "What?" Then came the sound. Not the bell. A lock. Another click. Then another. Metal turning. Across the building, doors unlocked in sequence like something was opening every route at once. Darla's eyes went wide. "Why is it unlocking everything?" I turned toward the kitchen door, my stomach sinking, because it wasn't unlocking for us. It was unlocking to let something out. The air in the lobby shifted. A cold draft rolled into the kitchen, carrying smoke that didn't belong to our little trash fire. And with it, a faint chorus of voices, kids whispering, overlapping, too many. Darla backed up, hand over her mouth. I stepped out of the kitchen into the lobby. The patrons were gone. Not they ran out. Gone like they'd never been there. Chairs were askew. A book lay open on the floor. A phone sat on the circulation desk, screen up, still recording, nothing. The crying patron was gone too. The lobby lights were still on. The open sign glowed. And in the middle of the lobby, near the county seal, stood the boy again. The burned boy with the roster sheet. He looked cleaner now, like the smoke had been wiped away. But his skin still bubbled wrong. His lips still cracked. He held the roster sheet up like he wanted me to read. I took a step toward him. The roster wasn't paper anymore. It looked like thin film. Transparent. Letters dark, floating. Names crossed out. 2 names untouched. Mara Henson. Caleb Harper. My throat tightened. "No," I said. The boy didn't blink. He lowered the sheet slowly, then pointed toward the basement stairs again. Darla stepped into the lobby behind me, coughing. "Oh my God," she whispered. The boy's eyes flicked to her briefly, dismissive, like she was background. Then he did the throat slice gesture again. Slow, deliberate. Then he tapped the roster with one finger right on my old name. Like the list was law. I felt anger rise, hot and stupid. I'm not that, I snapped. That's not my name. The boy's mouth opened. For a second, I thought he was going to speak. Instead, the library PA crackled, and Mara's voice, not the kid voice, not the teacher voice, Mara's voice came through, faint and close, like she was right behind me. Say it. My skin went ice. Darla whispered, Who is that? I didn't answer. I couldn't. The boy took a step closer. The air around him smelled like wet smoke and melted plastic. He held the roster out like he wanted me to take it. My hands twitched, wanting to slap it away, wanting to grab it, wanting to do anything. Behind me, Darla started to sob quietly, the sound of someone losing their grip. I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't know it was like this. The boy's head tilted toward her, and he pointed at her with one ash-gray finger. He traced a small circle in the air, slow, like he was drawing a mark. Darla froze, sob caught in her throat. A pale bruise bloomed on her wrist. 315. She looked down at it, eyes huge, then up at me, horror and betrayal colliding. What did you do to me? I didn't do anything, I said, voice raw. It's not. The bell rang. Not distant this time. Right there in the lobby, loud, heavy like it was inside the walls. Darla flinched like she'd been hit. The boy's mouth curved in something that wasn't a smile, but wanted to be. The voice, teacher come again, asked. Present. Darla's lips trembled. I saw it. I saw her about to answer because that's what people do when their name is called. It's muscle memory. It's obedience baked into bone. I grabbed her wrist hard. Don't. She jerked, eyes snapping to mine. It hurts, she whispered. It feels like my skin is being pulled. I know, I said. How do you know? She snapped, angry through fear. What the fuck is this? Why is it? Why is it? It wants someone to answer, I said. It wants the list to be complete. Darla shook her head, tears spilling. No, I'm not. The boy's eyes locked on her, and the PA voice said, gently, Darla. She made a tiny sound. Her lips parted. Don't. I said again, harsher. Don't you fucking say it. She swallowed, throat bobbing. But it's calling me. I know, I said. It called me for years. The boy took another step. The air grew colder. The lobby lights flickered. For a blink, the county seal on the wall looked like a school mascot banner, charred at the edges. Then it snapped back. The boy held the roster up again. A new line appeared at the bottom. Darla Keene, not crossed out. Not yet. Darla saw it and let out a choked sob. No. My stomach twisted. You put yourself on the list. I hissed, more at her than the boy. You kept it here. You kept it close. I was told to, she cried. I was told it had to stay accessible. County said, I mimicked bitterly. County said, you ever think County doesn't know shit? The boy's fingers tightened on the roster. The film edge curled like it was breathing. The bell rang again. Present, the voice asked, patient as death. Darla's shoulders shook. I can't, she whispered. I can't do this. Yes, you can, I said, and the words surprised me. I didn't know where they came from. Maybe from the part of me that's tired of being dragged. You don't answer. You don't give it what it wants. Darla stared at me like I was insane. Then what? It just keeps calling forever. I looked at the boy, at the roster, and my name's still there, untouched. And Mara's name's still there, untouched. And I understood in a sick, quiet way. It wasn't just calling names. It was calling the missing. The ones who never got properly answered for. The ones who got erased without closure. It wanted me to stop being missing. Not missing as in dead. Missing as in absent. As in the kid who was on the roster and then vanished into a new name. My mom thought she erased me to save me. Maybe she did. But erasing me also made me a blank spot on the list. A problem the roll call could never resolve. I swallowed, throat burning. It doesn't want Darla, I said quietly. Darla blinked through tears. What? It wants me, I said. No, she whispered, and for the first time she sounded human, not just angry supervisor. No, you can't. I'm not going down there, I said, voice tightening. I'm not giving it present. But I'm not letting it take you either. The boy's head tilted again, like it was listening. The PA crackled, and Mara's voice whispered close. Say it. My vision blurred with sudden rage. Shut up, I snarled into the empty air. Darla flinched. Who are you talking to? I didn't answer. I stepped toward the boy. He didn't back away. His skin looked blistered, but he didn't seem in pain. He looked purposeful, like he was doing a job. I reached for the roster sheet. The moment my fingers touched it, cold shot up my arm like electricity. Images slammed into my head. Hallway, smoke, kids pushing Mara's hand on my sleeve. A teacher screaming names. Someone coughing hard enough to vomit. The nurse's door open, black smoke rolling out. I saw myself, kid me, turning. Not leaving, just turning away from Mara. Ripping free, running. And I heard my own voice from back then, high and panicked. Mom! The guilt hit like a fist. I clenched my teeth, so hard my jaw ached. The roster sheet trembled in my fingers like it was alive. The boy's eyes stayed locked on mine. I forced words out, slow, like pushing glass through my throat. I was a kid, I said. The boy didn't react. The PA voice asked again, soft. Present. Darla's nails dug into my arm. Don't, she whispered, terrified. Don't say anything. I stared at my old name on the roster. Caleb Harper. It looked heavier than ink. It looked like a hook. I hated it. I hated how much it still felt like mine. I'm not here, I said, loud enough the lobby heard it. Loud enough the building heard it. You don't get to mark me present. You don't get to drag me back. The lights flickered hard. The bell rang once, angry. The boy's mouth opened. This time he spoke. His voice was wrong. Too many voices layered, whispering at once like a crowd trying to speak through one throat. Then stay missing. The words made my blood run cold. Because that wasn't a threat about paperwork. That was a promise. The air behind the boy rippled. That seam appeared again, right in the lobby now, splitting the space like a wound. Smoke seeped out, and through it I saw the hallway. Not on a screen. In the air. Lockers. Tile. The nurse sign at the end. And kids. So many kids. Not running. Not screaming. Standing. Watching. Faces smudged with soot. Eyes too wide. Mouths open like they were mid-breath forever. Mara was at the front. Her eyes locked on mine. Her hand lifted. She pointed at me, then pointed at the hallway behind her. Like, come back. Darla made a sound like she was choking. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God, oh my God. The seam widened. Cold rolled out. The smell of the fire punched me. My lungs tightened like they were remembering smoke. The boy held the roster out again. My old name sat there like a trap. Darla's name sat there now too, newly added. The kids behind the seam started whispering, overlapping, too many mouths moving without sound. But I understood them anyway, not in words, in feeling. Answer. Be counted. Be ours. Something brushed my wrist, cold fingers unseen. I jerked back, skin crawling. The bruise number 315 burned like it was being pressed deeper. Darla clutched her wrist, sobbing. Make it stop, she begged. Please, make it stop. I wanted to scream. I wanted to punch the wall. I wanted to rip the building apart. Instead, I did something I didn't expect. I looked at Mara, and I said, not present. I said the truth. I'm sorry. The words came out cracked, ugly, real. The seam trembled. Mara's expression didn't soften. She wasn't a forgiving ghost in some feel-good story. Her mouth opened, corners stretching, and the building voice, not teacher calm now, not screaming, spoke in a flat, hungry tone. Sorry doesn't answer roll. The bell rang. The kids behind the seam leaned forward like a tide. The seam widened another inch. Darla screamed and tried to run for the door. The lobby doors slammed shut on their own with a heavy clunk that shook the glass. Locked. Darla yanked at them, panicked. Open. Open. They didn't move. The boy stood still, watching her like a clerk watching a customer freak out. Darla turned back to me, eyes wild. Do something. I looked around the lobby for anything physical I could use. The fire alarm pull station. My hand shot out and yanked it. The alarm didn't blare. Instead, the school bell rang again, louder than ever, drowning everything. And the PA voice said, gentle as poison, fire drill. The seams surged wider, and heat rolled out with the cold like two fists from the same arm. Darla gagged, coughing smoke that wasn't even in the room yet. I grabbed her and hauled her toward the staff hallway, away from the front doors, because if the building wanted us to stay, it would keep the obvious exits locked. We stumbled past the offices, past the little plaques with donor names. The hallway lights flickered. For a blink, the walls looked like cinder block painted that ugly school beige. Then back to library drywall. We reached the staff door that led out back, the one my badge couldn't open earlier. I slammed my badge to the scanner. Beep. Green. The door didn't unlock. I slammed it again. Beep. Green. Nothing. Darla sobbed, pushing at the handle. No, no, no. The bell rang again, right behind us now. Footsteps. Small. Many. Running. Darla made a choking sound. They're coming. Spoon. The staff hallway behind us was darker than it should be. Not unlit, just deeper, like the shadows had weight. And in those shadows, shapes moved. Kid-sized. I grabbed Darla's shoulders and shoved her toward the supply closet. In here. What? She cried. Just move. We crammed into the closet and I slammed the door. Darkness swallowed us. The closet smelled like mop water and bleach. Darla's sobs were loud in the tight space. This is insane, she whispered. This is insane. We're gonna die. Shut up. I hissed, not because she was wrong, but because her voice felt like bait. Outside the closet, the bell rang again, softer now, like it was right outside the door. Then the kid voice asked close. Present. Darla's breath hitched. I clamped a hand over her mouth. She bit my palm hard enough to hurt. I didn't let go. The voice asked again, patient. Present. The closet door handle turned. Slow. Not yanked. Not forced. Turned like someone had a key. The latch clicked. I pressed my shoulder against the door, bracing. The handle twisted harder, like whoever held it noticed resistance. The door shuttered. Darla's eyes were huge in the dark, reflecting faint light from the cracks. I could smell smoke seeping in. The door rattled again. Then a whisper slid through the crack, so close it felt like lips against my ear. Caleb. My stomach dropped. It knew where I was. Of course it did. The handle stopped moving. Silence. Then, through the thin door, I heard something scrape. Paper against wood, like someone was sliding a sheet under the door. Darla's eyes darted down. I looked too. A corner of film, transparent, pushed into the closet under the door. The roster. It slid in slowly until it lay flat on the floor between our shoes. Names. Crossed out. 2 names untouched. 3 now. Mara Henson. Caleb Harper. Darla Keene. Darla stared at her name and made a muffled sob into my palm. My throat tightened. The kid voice asked, softer now, almost kind. Answer, and you can leave. Darla's eyes flicked to mine, desperate. She shook her head like she was begging me not to. I swallowed hard, then leaned down and grabbed the roster sheet. Cold burned my fingers. The film edge bit into my skin like frost. The moment I touched it, the closet walls seemed to tilt. The air shifted. For a heartbeat, the closet wasn't a closet. It was a locker. Metal walls closed on either side. The smell of sweat and cheap cologne and smoke. My breath came fast. I forced myself to focus. I lifted the roster and tore it. Not gently. I ripped it down the middle like it was paper. It didn't tear like paper. It tore like skin. A wet, awful sound. The cold flashed into pain like my fingers got slammed at a door. The kid voice outside shrieked, furious, high and thin. The closet door slammed so hard it rattled the shelves. The bell rang, rapid now, insane, like a panic alarm. I tore again. Another rip. The film fought, writhing in my hands, trying to stick back together. I kept ripping, piece after piece. The cold burned on my arms. Darla screamed into my hand, muffled. The closet shook like something hit it from the outside. The kid voice screamed, layered with others now, dozens furious. No, no, no. I ripped the last piece and shoved all the scraps into my hoodie pocket like I was stuffing a snake in there. Silence snapped. The bell stopped mid-ring like someone cut the sound. The closet door handle went limp. Outside, footsteps retreated quick. Darla's sobs turned into ragged breaths. I took my hand off her mouth, and she gasped like she'd been underwater. "What did you do?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said, voice shaking. "I don't know if it matters." We waited. No bell, no voice, just the hum of the building. I eased the closet door open a crack. The staff hallway looked normal again. Drywall, donor plaques, fluorescent light. No sound, no smoke. I stepped out, pulling Darla with me. She clutched her wrist, staring at the 315 bruise like it was a brand. "It's still there," she whispered, voice hollow. "It might stay," I said. We moved down the hallway like we were walking through a minefield. The back door scanner sat there, innocent. I swiped my badge. Beep. Green. This time the lock clicked. The door swung open. Cold air hit my face like a blessing. We stumbled outside into the alley behind the library, daylight bright and clean. Darla sucked in air like she hadn't breathed in years. "Call someone," she rasped. Call County. Call." I shook my head. "You can call whoever you want. They'll tell you it's a malfunction. They'll tell you it's stress. They'll tell you to write an incident report." Darla stared at me, eyes rimmed red. "Then what do we do?" I pulled the film scraps out of my pocket. They looked like regular microfilm pieces now. Thin, curled, harmless looking. My fingers were numb. "I burned them," I said. Darla flinched. "Again, somewhere it can't get me sued." I snapped, and the bitterness surprised me even now. We went to the parking lot. I opened my trunk and dumped the film scraps into an empty metal coffee tin I kept for random junk. I don't know why I had it. Maybe the universe likes props. I poured windshield washer fluid in. Stupid, flammable enough. I lit it with a lighter from my glove box. The flame caught. The film scraps curled, darkening, finally melting like plastic should. No screaming this time. No bell. No voice. Just fire and the smell of burning film. Darla watched, shaking. "Is it done?" she whispered. I stared at the flame until my eyes watered. I don't know. The bruise on my wrist still read 315. Darla still read 315. We stood there in the cold morning behind a public building, watching a little illegal fire in a coffee tin like it was a ritual. Eventually, it burned down to black ash. Darla exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay, maybe it's over." I didn't say anything because I could still smell smoke in the back of my throat, faint and persistent like a memory you can't rinse out. Darla went back inside to call her bosses, her county people, her someone will handle this chain of command. I didn't follow. I got in my car and drove until my hands stopped shaking. That afternoon, I got an email from Darla. Subject line, "Don't come back yet. No greeting." Just Darla, straight to the point. "They're here. County. Fire inspector. They're saying electrical. They're saying false alarm. They're saying you weren't on shift, so you weren't there. They told me to stop spreading stories. They told me to keep my mouth shut." Then, after a pause like she'd typed and deleted a sentence 10 times, they asked me if I still have the reel. I stared at that line until my eyes burned. Still have it. Like it was a normal piece of evidence you could misplace in a drawer. I typed back with shaking fingers. I burned it. A minute later, "Which one?" My stomach dropped. "Which one?" Meaning there's more than one. Meaning the box wasn't the only copy. Meaning what I tore in the closet was just one page in a book. I didn't answer. I turned my phone off and sat in my apartment with the curtains drawn, listening for bells that didn't ring. At 3:15 that night, nothing happened. No closet handelterning. No freezer tricks. No PA voice. No temperature drop. For the first time in what felt like forever, my lungs relaxed enough that I could take a full breath without tasting smoke. I slept. Real sleep. I woke up at 7:12 a.m. to sunlight and silence and a stupid little feeling of hope I didn't deserve. Then I checked my email. A county bulletin, mass email list, the kind that goes out to partners and community stakeholders, which apparently includes library supervisors. Subject: Grantwood Memorial Exhibit. Microfilm viewing available by appointment. My stomach turned. I opened it with my finger hovering like it might bite. It was written in that cheerful county tone that makes tragedies sound like attractions. They were announcing a new memorial display, a community remembrance. Photos, artifacts, recorded interviews, and in the middle of the list like it was a normal feature, microfilm viewing available by appointment. I scrolled down to the contact section. There it was. Darla Keene, Library Archives Coordinator. I stared at her name until it blurred. They didn't just keep it. They planned to show it. They planned to let people lean in and watch like it was local entertainment. My throat tightened because now I understood something that made my skin crawl. It didn't need me to find it. It wanted to be found. It wanted eyes on it. It wanted mouths to say present. The more people watched, the more people answered, the stronger it got. And Darla, whether she knew it or not, was now the hand holding the box out to strangers. My phone buzzed. A calendar alert. I didn't want to look. I did anyway, because fear makes you stupid. No roll call this time. Just a simple event, like something you'd schedule for a meeting. The Iowa 15 a.m. appointment. My blood went cold. I stared at the screen until my vision tunneled. I deleted it. It came back. I deleted it again. It came back again, same time, same plain title, like the system didn't care what I wanted. I shut my phone off. I sat on the edge of my bed and listened. My closet was quiet. My apartment was quiet. The world was quiet. But inside my head, faint as a memory, the bell rang once. Slow, heavy, like it was reminding me it had all the time in the world. I don't know if burning that film fixed anything. I don't get to pretend I saved anyone. That's not how it works. I ran when I was a kid, and I've been running ever since, just with better excuses and a different name. But I do know this. If something calls roll long enough, someone answers. And if it can't drag you back with a voice, it drags you back with guilt. So I keep waking up at 3:14, heart sprinting, waiting for the bell that hasn't rung yet. Because it doesn't need the reel anymore. It has my name, and now it has an exhibit.